Okay. Just give us a couple minutes and then we'll get started. Nice to see some familiar faces and some new faces. All right, I'm going to introduce myself for anyone that's new here. My name is Lisa. I'm the nutritionist at Raw Generation here. I hold these calls once per month, and it gives you guys a chance to ask me your questions live. I've always begun the calls with some type of a theme or lesson to try to cover a topic, I guess, with you. And then after that, the rest of the call is basically an open forum for any kind of questions. So it could be questions about our products, about general nutrition, anything that I have expertise in, I'm happy to try to answer for you. So it's great because those parts of the calls always expand and kind of keep things going. And I really enjoyed that kind of conversation with you guys. So before we get going into our topic of today, though, I'd like to introduce Jen. She is our executive assistant here at the office, and she manages our Juice Club Facebook group. I know some people have written in and said that they were waiting for access and things, and we had a kind of a transitional time when we didn't have a regular management of the page, but Jen has been regularly managing it, and she wants to talk to you guys about it. So I'm going to hand the floor to her.
Thank you, Lisa. Yep. Hi, everybody. I remember seeing some of your faces the last few times, so we're glad to have you back. I've been working on the page now about 3 weeks. Having a great time doing it. I just wanted to remind you guys that we do have the page there. We encourage participation, putting motivational posts. I'm putting a few posts to get a couple of laughs, informational, motivational, polls, interactive type social media posts. And I just encourage you guys to participate with me, try and help them grow this community, get to know each other, and just make this a fun thing for us all. And then, of course, any questions you have, feel free to send them to me. Questions that I cannot answer, obviously, because Lisa is the expert here. I will find out, get the information from her, and I'll provide it to you. I'm very responsive, so I encourage you to interact with us.
Yeah, and that is the, you'll see that we have two Facebook pages. We have our regular Raw Generation page. This is the Raw Generation Juice Club. So that's what you become an automatic member of when you have a subscription, which is why you have access to these calls as well. So it's just a perk that we give, and so we hope you'll use it. We have a nice community that happens there. The customers kind of really like to become friendly with each other, I feel like, right? So it's nice.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And thanks for the time, Lisa.
Of course, anytime. So now the topic for today's meeting, I figured with the 4th of July coming up, I didn't know how many people we would have with a holiday weekend. I'm glad to see some of you guys here, but I figured it's a good time to talk about navigating the summer or any kind of holidays or social events while staying on track with your weight loss and your health goals, because I know that can be really difficult. That to me is one of the hardest parts about staying on any kind of plan. So holidays in the summer is when people tend to fall off the wagon and they don't know how to get back on, or they kind of throw up their hands and they feel like they've ruined all their progress. So I wanted to focus on that today to try to give you guys the summer's just starting really. So for the most part, especially with the weather we've had around here anyway. So hopefully you'll still have plenty of time to implement these strategies for your summers. I also wanted to give you some motivation to how to really enjoy the social activities you're in and not make them stressful, because I know I've been in this position myself. When you are in the middle of a plan, you are like gung-ho and following something. It's hard to break that mindset to actually enjoy being in an environment that doesn't like lend itself to that. For example, say you decide that you're not going to have any alcohol for the month of whatever month to try to lose weight, to try to feel better. And then you find yourself at a party and you're just, instead of feeling good about your choices, you're feeling like you're left out, or you're feeling deprived. That's the opposite of what we're trying to accomplish. That's never going to create or foster a long-term healthy relationship with food or a long-term maintaining of goals. So that's what I want to try to like center this conversation around, because I found in my own private practice with my clients, that is the toughest thing, is for people to not look at any kind of plan as a plan, but really a lifestyle that you're adopting. And a lifestyle means you have wiggle room for like what I call the soul food, the things that don't necessarily fit into the plan, the 20% of the 80-20, right? Um, so stay on track all summer long. I think that for me, the most important thing to keep in mind here is that, there will be times when your food choices might not be totally in your control. You might be at a barbecue, a restaurant, a bar, a family event, whatever, a boat ride, I don't know. And of course you can bring food with you. I'll talk about that in a minute too, but say that you don't. Though that might be a day that you have to kind of just like lift up and say, okay, well, I'm going to make the best choices I can with what's here, or I'm going to enjoy myself and not try to make the best choices that I can. But I made good choices all day till I got here, and I'm going to make good choices when I get back home and tomorrow and going forward. So that's to me how I have always managed things. Like, if you're going to be out all day from say 1 to 12, at night, you can still choose to have a green juice in the morning or a smoothie or have a good breakfast. You can choose to eat really well the day before and eat really well the day after, so that you're not necessarily, you don't have to have the whole day be a wash, because you're going to have a couple hours or maybe even half of a day or even a whole day of, of poor choices. Similarly, one thing about like our generation, for example, is a great example, but even if you make your own food or drinks or snacks, you can bring some portable things with you just so that you can kind of mitigate the damage. You know what I mean? You can kind of, if you're going to say, let's use a boating, for example, because my brother has a boat and I'm going on with him on the 4th. So I'll be bringing some of my own healthy snacks because he will have a lot of beer, not healthy snacks. So I'll probably be bringing along one of our juices or one of my smoothies that I make. I'll definitely bring some fruit and I'll have all those kinds of things with me. And then when we go to lunch, I'll probably have whatever I feel like having for lunch. It might not be necessarily a super healthy lunch, but the rest of the day I'll have made good choices because I brought things with me or because I had a good breakfast before we leave. And I'm also personally in the mindset where if I'm going out for dinner, if it's a place I love and I want to have what I want to have, I will have it and enjoy it. And that's mentally it for me. If I'm going someplace that's just to be social with friends and it's a place I would never choose to go, like, for example, say someone wants to go to like a seafood restaurant, that's not my thing. I'm not going to waste my health or my calories on something I don't love. So I'm going to, in that case, choose just to have like a salad or whatever healthy thing I can find on the menu. And I'm going to eat something healthy when I get back home that I'm going to enjoy, that I'm going to make myself. So those are the decisions that I make. Just because you're going out doesn't mean you have to have that be your soul food. If it really is soul food for you and you really love it, then love it and make it, enjoyable and make it worth the going off your routine. But if it's not, you don't have to fit in. I always thought that it would be hard for people to accept the way I am, but they do. People just really want to hang out. You can nurse a glass of wine all night and just hang out with people, and it's just they just want to talk to you and have fun. So it might be like a little bit of a discussion in the beginning, but I mean, I don't know, people are used to me 20 years later that I started eating this way, so no one expects me to do what I'm not gonna want to eat. But it's all about the way you present it too. And I kind of feel like also this is like a separate discussion, but when you just live a certain way by example, without preaching to people, without making a big deal about it, without drawing attention to yourself, and you start looking and feeling better, people want to know how that happened. And so you end up being like a light in people's lives, and you say, well, I try to eat half of my food raw every day. I try to eat a raw breakfast and lunch every day, and that keeps my skin clear and keeps my weight down and it keeps me feeling good. I don't go to the doctor very often, and then, oh, what do you mean? Tell me more about that. Then you have a chance to like share with people. Then you may end up having a friend that eats like you. And then when you go to places, you have two of you the same way, and then you don't feel so weird. You know what I mean? So you have to kind of just like, and I feel like the really important thing is not to preach at people when you're in these events, and just do your thing, enjoy yourself and do your thing. And then I think that it just kind of welcomes the conversation with people instead of making you seem like an oddity with how you might choose to eat. So that's how I do that. How I make my summers more enjoyable with food. What I like to personally do, I love to prepare food. I'm one of those kind of people. So I will usually make something that I know my friends love. Like, for example, all of my friends, healthy and unhealthy, love the kale salads that I make. So I will usually make like a huge batch of kale salad that I personally love, that my friends also like. And they're like, oh, you made your kale salad. So then I bring that. And so we're all eating that, and they're having their junk along with it. And I'm having that. And I'm happy as a clam just having that. And so it ends up being something I enjoy, and it's fun for them. So you can share like recipes that you love that are healthier for you too with other people. And then that's another way to make summer a little more fun. Another thing is that, like, for example, if I'm with my nieces and nephews and I want to take them for ice cream or something, I'm probably not going to eat the ice cream, but I'm definitely going to take them and not make them feel weird about having ice cream. So maybe I made them a healthy dinner first and then I take them for ice cream later. And if you're in a position where you have children, you want to enjoy that experience of the ice cream with them, enjoy it. and have it. Make it a special memory with your kids, but just make it that's your treat for the day. And maybe you're only going to have 2 treats that week, and you're going to kind of put yourself in that mindset where I'm not going to do this every night with my kids, but I'm going to do it a couple nights because I don't want to miss those memories with my children. Because like to me, it's never worth sacrificing those special memories just to stay on your plan. Because if you make it just that, a special memory, not a regular occurrence, your plan will not be, it won't go off the rails. You'll still keep your weight down. You'll still keep your healthy habits. A little quote unquote cheat here and there is not going to ruin you. As long as you can mentally compartmentalize it as that. If I say this with an if you are one of those people that cannot tolerate having sugar because if you have it once, it causes an addiction for you and you can't get it off your mind, and for days and days and days you're going to be stuck in this rut of having to need sugar, then that plan will not work for you. That's a situation. There are people like that, and you might be one of them. There's actually a lot of people like that have certain trigger foods that they can't have even a little bit of without wanting a lot of it for many days in a row. So you have to have enough mental capacity to know, or fortitude, I guess is a better word, enough mental fortitude to know if you have those foods that are dangerous for you, that you're only going to have them if you are mentally prepared to like deal with the repercussions of that, possibly for many days in a row after that. So I don't personally have those kinds of foods. I never did. But I know a lot of people have that with chocolate. I know a lot of people have that with certain kinds of like salty snacks like a Dorito and stuff. That mostly it's foods that have chemical excitotoxins in them that people can't control. Excitotoxins are chemicals that are added to almost all processed foods that unnaturally expand your taste buds. So the rush of flavor is not something you can get from a natural food. And so those foods become very addictive, and they're hard. You can't really replicate them with like an apple or celery and hummus or something. It just doesn't replace a Dorito or an Oreo or something. So if you have one of those kinds of foods that are a processed food that definitely has chemicals in it, those are the foods that I wouldn't personally include in that 20% if you have really specific goals you want to meet. Maybe you do that kind of going off the rails when you've met your goal and you're maintaining. But if you're in that phase of trying to get down to a certain weight or trying to reverse a certain illness, I wouldn't put myself in a position where I'm going to be tempted like that. So maybe that's a little bit of inner work you have to do to figure out if you have those kinds of foods. But otherwise, the mentality of 80-20 typically does work, and it makes a lifestyle sustainable for like months and years on end, rather than just like committing to myself for a month and I'm going to go back off 30 days from now and go back right back to where I was before the summer. You know what I mean? So before I go forward, is there any questions thus far? I know I talk fast. I try not to, but Jen.
Can you repeat what you called the name of the chemicals that are in the snacks that are addictive?
Excitotoxins.
Excitotoxins. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. And there's actually plenty of books and stuff to read about that. I actually had to read I had a whole course about that for school, which is why it's always on my mind. And it's amazing when you start to learn what these companies put in your foods to make you more or less addicted to them, that you can't live without them because you can't replace that flavor or replicate that flavor. So it's pretty wild. Any others before we go on? Okay. How to quickly undo a weekend of indulgence. I just added this because when those times come, when you have maybe a full day or maybe a couple days and you're just you did go off the wagon, maybe your mental fortitude was not so strong those couple days. Long before I ever worked for this company, I was a big proponent of cleansing. I always have my clients cleanse. I would do it with different methods. And I didn't do it with a juice cleanse like we do here. I did it with teaching people how to make smoothies and eating fruits. And I would always tell them, you can always cleanse off a weekend in a day. Take a Monday and just reset your body. You can just cleanse, and you can do it like with an all raw diet for a day or two, and your body will get set back to where it was before, chemical wise and weight wise, and also your taste buds. Because that's the thing that really gets the most disrupted when you go off your plan. Your taste buds kind of have to get readjusted to liking those natural flavors again, like I was saying with the excitotoxins. So you can certainly do that with your own fruits and veggies at home, or if you decide, if you're obviously a raw generation customer and you must like us if you subscribe to us, keeping a couple bottles, more than a couple, keeping like 5 or 6 bottles on hand in your freezer just at all times means you can basically do a one-day cleanse anytime you need one. Anytime. I call it a Monday detox. I actually wanted to create a product called a Monday detox, but we have not been able to successfully ship 6 bottles and keep them frozen. We have to have more than that to keep our bottles frozen in transit. But I love the concept of a Monday detox because it just kind of starts your Monday and your whole week off better and back onto track with your goals. So whether you do it with our cleanse or your own, like I said, your own foods, a cleanse is basically, in my mind, a cleanse is not fasting. It's just doing it all raw foods, raw fruits, raw vegetables, juices, smoothies, whatever. And that kind of cleanses your taste buds of the sugars and the really rich sodium, fake sodium and chemicals and stuff. How to make summer cocktails healthier. I thought that would be a fun one to talk about. I had this idea because for my birthday a couple of years ago, we had a signature cocktail on the 40th birthday, and we decided to do it using one of our flavors here, my Skinny Boost, which if you have read any of my emails, for those of you who don't know, all the emails that come to you guys from our company, I write everyone, a lot of them. The Skinny Boost is my favorite flavor, and I love the hibiscus lime flavor. And so we made these Skinny Boost margaritas as my signature drink. And so it was the Skinny Boost with tequila, which I love, and pink salt on the rim. And it was just like everyone loved it. And so you would never know that it was like a mixture with a raw cold pressed juice. So now if you love summery drinks like pina coladas, if you love, all those kinds of things, you can definitely make them with cleaner options than with sugary options. And then you won't have, first of all, the hangover should not happen, or it'll be much less. You won't have the headaches from it. And I'm not a big drinker, so I'm probably not the best person to speak to this, but I do know that you can definitely make cocktails healthier by using not sugary mixer bases. So like, for example, we have our pina colada. If you add some rum to that, it tastes as good as any pina colada you've ever had. I've made a few different things with our drinks. I've done, the citrus mint is really tasty if you add some vodka to it. What else? Oh, the cool greens. That's a great summer cool drink too, that you can add whatever you like to it. And the good thing too is that the raw nutrients actually kind of counteract the yuck and the alcohol if you want to do that. So like I said, I'm not the biggest drinker. I'm not the best person to ask. I've never even had a hangover in my life. But I know that my friends swear by using our drinks, pre and post drinking, and also mixed in with their drinks, and they love it. So you could try that too. And generally speaking, just as a rule of thumb with alcohol, if you are a drinker, the best things to stay away from are beer and mixers, unless you're making them yourself. You're much better off drinking something like a clear, like a tequila or a vodka, like with seltzer and lime. That's way better for weight loss, way better for health from a health standpoint. Of course, wine is a healthier option too. It doesn't make you too sleepy. Or like I said, these mixtures that you make yourself with something cleaner as the base that don't have like the triple sec and the syrups in them and stuff. Now, before I do the last part, which is the recipe, do we want to ask any other questions? No? Okay. My favorite recipe that I bring, aside from the kale salad that I just mentioned, is I make this Dijon potato salad that's really yummy, and my friends like it. And I was going to copy a screenshot of it for you to put in this chat, and then I realized in the place where I was copying, there's also another recipe right next to it for a honey lime slaw that's really tasty. It's great for to go on well, if you're making a burger, you can just have it on the side, like a coleslaw, but it's not creamy. It's like a lemon and honey lime vinaigrette. So I'm not sure if it's going to let me screenshot this into here. Let me see if it lets me, because if not, then I'll have it emailed to you.
Or Lisa, just a suggestion, if you're not able to do that and you can email it to me, I'm happy to publish it on the page, or if you want me to do that anyway.
That's a great idea too. I will do that. Okay. Yeah, it was not letting me drag it in. So what I will do, it's too much for me just to verbally tell you and have you write down. So we'll have it emailed along with the webinar recording, and I'll have Jen post it to the Facebook Raw Juice Club, Raw Jen Juice Club page. And then you can get it that way. So it's a potato salad and a honey lime coleslaw, and they're both fan favorites for sure. Okay, those are my notes for the most part. I usually take about 20 or 30 minutes, so we're kind of on time there with my stuff. So what questions can I answer for you guys, whether it's about this topic or not? It can be literally anything in nutrition that you're curious about, your own diet or anything you like to talk about. Just either raise a hand or you could just unmute and ask. Or you can also type into the chat. That's fine too.
I have a question, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
Lately, I've been getting onto like flavored seltzer water.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I'm drinking the Polar, and it says naturally calorie free and everything, but you know how sometimes they hide stuff. What are your thoughts on these flavored low calorie or no calorie seltzer waters?
I would say they're all different, so you have to kind of like really carefully look at the ingredients. They're not going to be on the can. They're going to be on the box, probably that you bought it in. And I would just, if it doesn't specify where the natural flavors come from, that's like, see, well, I'm kind of over the top. I would probably contact the company and find out, because I would just want to know, because natural flavors could be anything from 3,000 different ingredients legally in this country. So I would want to know what those natural flavors are. I doubt they're going to hide sugar in it. They can, of course, people can do whatever they want. Companies do whatever they want. But if it doesn't taste sweet to you, it just tastes like an essence of flavor, there's probably no sugar added to it. But it would, if there is, it would say some version, it wouldn't say sugar. It would say probably like an artificial sweetener, or it would say like, something with dextrin in the name. It would be on the box, on the ingredients. So I would say check that, because some of those flavor seltzers are just that. They're just seltzer with like an essence of flavor added, and probably fine. What I would usually do for myself is I get plain seltzer and I add my own like orange or lemon or lime to it, and then I know exactly what's in it. So
Thank you.
no, I have a see Doreen. No question, just a comment for the smoothie. Great product. Sometimes the juices left me feeling incomplete with the smoothies. So like, oh, I'm so glad you like the smoothies. Yeah, that's a kind of a cool story, because when I first started here, it's now over 3 years ago, we didn't have smoothies. But I love smoothies, and I've always taught my clients, how to make them. So it took us a good 6 months to be able to mass produce, to be able to make smoothies at the same scale that we make juices. It took a lot of equipment trial and error, recipe trial and error, to get them to taste and to be that way. So I'm really glad to hear you love them, because they were really a lot of work, and we do make a lot of them now for that reason. So Jeffrey, I love pumpkin seeds as snacks. What are your thoughts? Also, how is seafood like shrimp, salmon when trying to watch weight? Pumpkin seeds are very, very healthy fat. They're rich in omega fats, which are great for your brain, your skin, your hair. A couple things. One, you should make sure that they are raw, not toasted or salted, and not even toasted and unsalted, because that means they'll have probably some kind of oil added to them. But even if not, once you heat a fat, if you've been here before, you know my spiel about this, but if you don't, it might be new for you. When you heat a fat, chemically alters the composition of that fat, and your body cannot process it well. So it actually hinders weight loss. Raw fats are much easier for your body to digest and process, and that's also where you get the full nutritional value from them. So if the raw pumpkin seeds, great. However, if you are trying to lose weight, they are not a weight loss snack. Nuts and seeds are very caloric. Healthy calories are very caloric. So I usually recommend either blending them like into a dressing or a dip, or putting them on top of a salad as like a condiment. Then that's fine. It's really easy to overeat them when you're snacking on them. And I always use this example with like nuts and seeds. If you think about, I take things back to nature. That's how I decide what really we're meant to eat. So if you think of a walnut, for example, or a pecan, and how long it would take for you to crack a walnut shell with your own hands in nature by itself. Because if you've ever seen them, they're like a tennis ball. Then they have like all this stuff you go through before you even get to the shell that we're used to when we see them in the supermarket and the nuts inside. It would probably take you a good 10 to 15 minutes, I would guess, with your hands to get into one of those walnut shells. Meanwhile, we can eat a handful of 20 walnuts in a matter of minutes, like it's nothing. So if you just want to think about that from like a body composition standpoint, we're not really meant to eat a ton of nuts and seeds. I think they're definitely healthy, and I incorporate them on a weekly basis. But to have them and like as a snack, it's really, really easy to overeat them like you're eating chips or something like that, because it takes the crunchy kind of desire away. So I recommend strongly having them as a condiment or blended into a dressing, but not as a snack when you're trying to lose weight. Seafood like shrimp and salmon, from a weight loss standpoint, are great. They will not hurt you with weight loss at all. Shrimp, as far as from a cleanliness standpoint, is one of the more toxic seafoods. So make sure you're getting like a wild caught. Like I know Whole Foods sells, Whole Foods. Trader Joe sells one. They're organic wild caught Argentinian shrimps that are frozen. They're the cleanest I found at any supermarket around here. I recommend them. They're also not crazy expensive compared to others. And same with salmon. Salmon is great, full of healthy fats. It's a lean protein. But I would go for a wild caught salmon, not a farm raised, colored, gross salmon. If you can afford it, a wild caught is always the better way to go. And you find lots of companies online that will ship them frozen. If you can't find them fresh, buy you for a good price. So that is my recommendation with those. Also, if you have not been here before, I also recommend for weight loss, keeping your heavy sources of protein and fat towards the end of the day. Eating light to heavy. You've, I'm sure, heard me say this before. Light, not necessarily meaning low calorie, light meaning light foods like water rich, fruits, vegetables, juices, smoothies, it's best to start your day off really light and to not introduce fats till later in the day. One reason for this is food combining. So if you are a person that struggles with bloating, if you have a hard time losing weight, if you're never sure if you're going to wake up feeling like sluggish or bloated or not, I dealt with that for years. It even presents like IBS sometimes. That's often a case of improperly combining foods. So fruit and fat, for most people, don't mix very well. There are some exceptions of fruits that can mix with fats. For example, dates are one, and that's why we put them in the smoothies to sweeten them and not some other kind of fruit juice. There are certain kinds of fruits that can blend with fats, but without getting too nitty-gritty into which can and which can't, as a general rule of thumb, if you don't combine fruits and fats, you'll be better off. So an example is like apples and peanut butter, totally healthy from a health standpoint, totally a weight bomb if you're trying to lose weight. It will literally do the opposite of give you weight loss results when you mix fruit and fat in that way, because the fruit digests very quickly. It's in and out of your gut in about 35 minutes. It's just water and fiber. However, the peanut butter or any kind of heavier fat like nuts and things take 2 to 6 hours to break down in your gut. So it is sitting there for a long time. And the apple is kind of trying to move its way out, and the nuts are kind of trying to hold it in, and it causes this push and pull reaction in your digestive tract, which basically leads to gas and bloating, fermentation inside your gut, and also definitely slows weight loss. So the typical healthy combinations, the fruit and nut mixes, apples and peanut butter, that always having a protein at every meal. I don't prescribe to that personally. I don't believe that you have to have protein in every meal, nor do I believe that it's easy to become protein deficient in this country. I'm 100% eat protein every day. And I get a lot of it from my fruits and vegetables. And I also get it from other sources like eggs and chickpeas and things. But those heavier sources of protein, I recommend having like for either a later lunch or dinner, and not breakfast or an early lunch, because it will just set your whole day up better if you don't light to heavy. And once you start incorporating those heavier foods, the fats, that's when you have to cut out the fruits for the most part. So like after you've had, say, nuts, I wouldn't go back and have melon. I wouldn't go back and have apples and grapes. The fruits that are, I call them neutral fruits because they pretty much can be had at any time without having to worry about combining, are berries and citrus. And pineapple actually falls into that category with the citrus. Those foods actually help you digest fats and break them down. So if after dinner you want to have a clementine or some strawberries or something, that will not cause bloating or a problem. It'll actually help you, those enzymes will help you break down those fats. But other kinds of fruits will cause the problems. So that might have caused some questions. That usually does. So feel free to ask before I go on if you have any.
I had a question. I caught like one of the YouTube videos and you were talking about potato. First of all, I love your hummus recipe. So
Oh,
I've been
thanks.
using that like every day. I love
Nice.
it. So this was kind of new to me, but I have been doing the Build-A-Box juices for several months now, which has been great. I never realized that I would like juice fasting, but I love it. And it's totally
great.
reduced my cravings. I don't have cravings anymore. I was getting bad cravings at night for carbs. And I got to say, I don't have any cravings anymore. So it's been really miraculous from that standpoint. You had mentioned potatoes, and like I thought potatoes starch bad. But you talked about having them throughout the day and stuff. I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about like what the science is or whatever behind that.
Yeah, people always look at me like I'm crazy when I tell them to eat a lot of potatoes, but it's life-changing when you start doing it because they're very,
Yeah.
very safe. So of course they have to be prepared in a way that lends itself to weight loss. So potatoes need to be cooked without any kind of fat. So they can be baked, they can be dry roasted, they can be boiled, and you can even make them into like patties and all kinds of things. There's lots of things you can do with potatoes. And when you have them in that way, white potatoes or sweet potatoes, I don't discriminate at all. They will not cause weight gain. If anything, they will help you to lose weight because you are filling. They're just healthy carbs. They're very, they're actually considered a complex carb, but I'm calling them a simple carb because they're simple in how they're made up. It's like it's like, to me, it's the same as having fruits or vegetables. Potatoes fall right in line with those. I don't even count them as a starch when I eat. So, and I couldn't tell you the exact science behind why this works, just that they break down very easily in the body. They're very low calorie. They're very high in fiber, especially when you have the skin. And so for me, and they're also very satisfying. So like in the middle of the day, if I want a salty snack, I'm classic for heating up those little baby potatoes and put some salt on them and just
Yeah.
pop things in or dip them in my hummus. I love that. And it's extremely satiating, and you don't feel like it definitely curbs the cravings for other carbs. Most people have cravings later in the day because they're not having enough carbs during the day. You need to be having carbs. I mean, I believe 100% and 80%, 80% carbs, 10% fat, 10% protein is how I recommend structuring your day for healthy weight loss and health overall for higher energy. I know it's not the media standard, but that 100% what I believe and have done for 20 years. So those carbs coming from fruits, vegetables, potatoes, and of course some whole grains in there too are fine, like quinoa, brown rice, oats. I do less of those, but I certainly do incorporate them, and you can and still lose weight for sure. But the potatoes, they are a weight loss lifesaver. Don't knock it till you try it. Great question. Also, oven fries are great. That's a recipe that you have the skinny method or the protein method. You have that recipe access. Oven fries are just cutting the potatoes into fries and dry roasting them on parchment paper, no oil, but you season them with salt and they get crispy, and it's just like having a French fry. It's delicious. Another question came in, Jeffrey. So basically, fruits should be eaten in the earlier part of the day and heavier foods and fats later in the day. Correct. Also, can you include the hummus recipe in the email that will go out? Yes, certainly I can. No problem. Jeff, I don't know what you subscribe to, but if it's a protein method, a skinny method, or a signature reset, you already have access to all those recipes. If you don't, then yes, it'll be emailed. No problem. I gave that out on our last call. Well, hummus is a lifesaver. You're welcome.
Sorry. So, on the recipes, yeah, I haven't been able to figure out where they are either. I'm doing the build a box, but I don't know if you get the recipes.
Yeah, it's not, the recipes are not a perk for subscribers. They are part of the weight loss system programs. So the skinny method, the protein method, and the signature reset are programs I developed to have weekly weight loss. So they all come with extra resources. So those resources include my recipes, like an eating out guide, a healthy swaps guide. The signature reset has a bunch of other guides. So they're just like things to help these are weekly programs, or they can be bi-weekly or monthly, whatever you want, to lose 2 to 3 pounds a week. And so they're more lifestyle encompassing. The build a box is kind of just like choose your flavors that you want and go from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they don't have, that's why you're not finding the recipes. They're not there for you to find.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we'll definitely send out at least these 3 for you guys. You can always email me for something too. I'm happy to send them along. I do that for people all the time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. No. Okay. Well, we still have plenty of time, so don't hesitate if you have other things to talk about. Can you guys hear all the noise on my end? It's very loud outside my office. I have my door closed. I think it's coming through. I got all these things here.
Any other tips on things to eat? Hacks? Any other hacks to share?
For what kind of situation?
Like I'm going on vacation in July, coming up in a couple weeks, and I am going to bring some juices with me because we're renting a house, so I'll get to stock up, but I'll be having dinner, so out. I don't know. Just thinking of things I can pack with me on the road.
When I travel, the first thing I do, whether I fly or I drive, is I always scope out a few supermarkets locally. Usually I try to find a juice bar if I'm not bringing juices with me, or if you can bring them too. If you're going to a place where you have access for a freezer, that's awesome. I always look for, if they have a Whole Foods or something like that, or if they have just even like a regular supermarket, and I will go and I will stock up on the best produce I can find. And if I'm in a hotel, I will keep that in the hotel. I always request a mini fridge, always. So you're going to a house, but if you're traveling, they always have them, because people have medications that need to be refrigerated. So they can't deny you a mini fridge. And I always stock my mini fridge up with things like usually like hummus, olives, cut vegetables. And then I have a lot of not perishable fruit, like canned fruit, like apples and things like that I keep. And so, I will navigate a lot of my eating by having things I need in my hotel to be full. And then if I go out for like meals, it's more social for me and not so much like for the sake of getting my calories in. But that being said, if you know the area where you're going and you know the kind of restaurants you might be eating at, you can look ahead at the menus. You can really navigate. Most menus can be like finagled to find healthy options. You don't have to, I always tell my clients, you don't have to order exactly what's on the menu as it comes. So for example, if you see on your menu pasta primavera with chicken and you're trying to lose weight, order that, but ask them to leave the pasta out and just have chicken and vegetables. And and then so it's a simple thing, and they might never have had that asked before, but they'll do it if you ask them to do it. It's not that hard of a request to make. Or in my situation, I eat an almost all raw diet for 20 years, so I will look to see what ingredients they have on different dishes and ask them to make a salad using. Oh, I see a cauliflower. Can you put cauliflower in my salad? Can you put this? And it's just honestly, you have to be a little bit of a pain in the neck, but I don't care. I just want to eat what I want to eat, so I'm just a pain in the neck. So, and then you can also play. It depends on who you're with. If you like. If I'm on a date, I might not be so weird. If I'm out with my friends, I'll be weird. So it kind of just depends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you can also find certain restaurants have a lot of healthier, like sushi restaurants are a great option for health, a great place for healthier options. Believe it or not, a steakhouse usually has great options. They have sweet potatoes, baked potatoes, lean protein, and salads. Diners are always a go-to. So I don't know if you're cooking in your house or if you're eating out, but if you're going to be cooking in the house and bringing things, we have things like our protein bars. You can buy like Lara bars. Those are very similar, like in composition. They're not the most ideal because it is a fruit and nut mix, but ours at least are date based, so they're not the worst for digestion either. And they're definitely healthier than somebody might grab at like a truck stop or something. So you have to kind of take balance and see what's better. For me, I always pack a cooler full of my favorite fruits and veggies. And then I have some of my like staple things. Like for me, some staples are olives. I'll bring like my salt that I like to have, my olive oil I like to have. So if I can make something in the room or the house that I'm in, I have my own ingredients. So a few like, staples I bring. And then I don't know if your house is like, I'm assuming it probably has a kitchen set up. But I will, like if I'm in a hotel, I usually bring a couple basic things like a portable cutting board and a knife, just so I can just super simple, nothing crazy. I truly don't make it crazy. Some people make it really nuts, but I feel like if you make it nuts, you don't sustain. So I like to keep things pretty sustainable. So, those would be my best. I also usually bring along some dried fruits like dates or something because they keep really well and they're great to just take like in the car if you're going on a day trip or something. You can just pop a few in and not be starving.
What do you think about salad dressing? Like, what do you recommend for salad dressing?
Yeah, I make all my own. I usually make them in the moment of making my salad, right on top of my salad, and I mix it and I just eat it. There are not too many clean versions out there to be bought. Primal Kitchen is the best I have found with clean options that are bottled. And there's also a pretty good one that Bragg's makes, like a vinaigrette that they make that's bottled. Those two options you could definitely buy and bring with you someplace, or you could also just make a mason jar full of your own dressing and bring it with you, and it'll just last you for the whole week. And just something super simple like extra virgin olive oil, some lemon or vinegar, and some honey and some spices. Lots of recipes for those in our guides too. So that depends. When I go out to a restaurant, I have a soy allergy, so I can't have any vegetable oil ever, and that makes eating out. That puts another layer of difficulty for me to eat out. So you will not find a salad dressing in a restaurant made with pure olive oil. I have not, even in the best restaurants, I have to always bring one olive oil in my purse. I have this little tiny bottle and I put it right on my salad and just ask for lemon. I make my own because, I would not mind in a situation if I wasn't allergic to have a little bit of that sometimes, but I can't. So, I have to bring it with me and, little things like that. I don't know.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Jeffrey. What is recommended to reduce hot flashes? Also, planning to go to Vegas at the end of July. Looking forward to the fun, but not those Vegas buffets. I've been to Vegas since being healthy is doable. Not a lot of healthy choices. I'm also a vegan. Okay, well, a couple things. If you are a vegan for ethical reasons, it's certainly much more difficult to eat vegan at a buffet. If you're a vegan for health reasons and you don't mind having something that potentially has a little butter or chicken stock or something in it, you can do a little better. So I'm not sure your rationale for being vegan, but I actually find buffets to be one of the easiest places for me to eat because there's almost always a salad bar. They usually have some kind of a steamed vegetable or rice or something like that. So I don't, and I am classic for sticking an avocado in my purse. I just don't care. So I'll put an avocado on my salad and just do what I do. So I find buffets to be one of the easier places to eat. And there certainly are some restaurants in Las Vegas that are, higher tier that have much cleaner options. They're just, you pay more for them. So I don't know, where your thoughts are with that. Similar to what I was just saying. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. It only says S by your name. I don't want to call you by S.
Sorry, it's Sandy. I know I couldn't figure out how to fix that, but
Oh,
it's
no problem.
Sandy.
No problem,
Yeah,
Sandy. Sandy, are you the Sandy that emailed me?
I am.
Oh,
I
you
am
are.
that
Nice to meet
Sandy. I'm
you.
that Sandy. Yeah.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So as I was saying to Sandy, I do bring some things with me, and or I source a store locally just to have a few things on hand. So you might want to do something like that too. For reducing hot flashes, that there's not a magic pill or recipe for that. It's about having your hormones balanced, and balancing your hormones is kind of a whole process. I'm actually working on a whole hormone program for here. It'll probably be hopefully happening in the fall for rebalancing hormones. But you know, hot flashes also sometimes can happen if you eat a lot of junk, or even a lot of like, if you're a vegan, I don't have no idea what you currently eat, but there's a lot of vegan junk food out there that people associate with being healthier because it is labeled as vegan, but it actually is not healthy for you. It's just like a chemical version, healthier version of a not healthy food. So for example, I personally have never gone down the road of like Tofurkey to replace, turkey, or, tofu hot dogs to replace hot dogs. I've never used meat replacements, even in the days when I did eat. I went through a whole kind of process of evolving how I eat. So I was certainly a raw vegan for like 8 or 10 years straight. I just ate whole foods. I never ate the replacement foods like the soy cheeses and things. Those kind of foods are known to cause hormone imbalance and can also, of course, cause hot flashes if that's something that you or somebody you love deals with. So my first advice would be to cut out anything processed, even if it's healthy, quote unquote, and processed, because most of those healthy processed foods are really greenwashed and not so healthy at all. There's a whole market to be had for healthy foods. It's sickening a little bit. When I go to the health food store or the health food section of the supermarket, I look around thinking like, this is not that much better than what's on those aisles. It's just marketed to be healthier, and it might have, like a different kind of a thickener and not xanthan gum or something, or it might say cane juice crystals instead of refined sugar. And at the end of the day, it is still sugar, but sure. Is organic better? Yes. Is it better? Is it better grade of lousy than that stuff? Yes. Is it good for you? I would not say yes. I would say it can easily cause weight gain or health problems just as much as the unhealthy counterparts. So staying whole food based, if you're not a vegan, for the rest of you, I'm not a big proponent of like nut milks and things unless you're truly getting a nut milk that's just nuts and water. There's only a few brands that do that. I would much sooner see you have, like, if you're in a state where you can get raw dairy, or if not, like a whole organic dairy is much better, believe it or not, than anything fake. If you eat dairy, I'm not saying you should eat dairy. I'm just giving you an example here. If you're like a cheese eater, I would say get a raw grass-fed cheese as opposed to like, other kind of cheeses you can buy. Definitely wouldn't touch a Kraft single with a 10-foot pole. That's the furthest thing from cheese that I can imagine. So things like that. It's learning that it's learning to read beyond the labels of foods. Fat-free, sugar-free, gluten-free usually means the opposite of healthy. They call those things out because they can say those things, but if they were really healthy, they wouldn't have to even try to sell it. It would just be very obvious that it was healthy. So I don't know if that helps or makes more confusion for you, Jeff, but you can let me know if you want me to clear up somewhere for you.
Yes, hello. This is actually Leslie using Jeff's.
I'm sorry, I keep calling you Jeff, not knowing. How are
I
you,
know,
Liz?
I couldn't change the name, but so non-dairy cheeses, because I seem to like them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Although they may not be healthy, like what Daya is one. They have lots of stuff, and they do have the grated ones that I like to sometimes put on salads. So
Mm-hmm.
could those not be so healthy?
I mean, Daya is I would say of all of the fake cheese brands, it's probably the cleanest of them. That being said, I wouldn't call it a health food. So I would sooner use nutritional yeast to make it like a grated cheese kind of a flavor than I would use something like that. But I mean, if you want to just, I'm not telling you not to eat it by any means. It just depends, like I said, on your goals and your reasoning for being vegan, and also if it's for weight loss, if it's for health, what kind of reasons you're doing it for. I don't want to speak 1,000% on the diet, because I've only, when I was, it came about that brand came around after I had stopped eating all those kinds of processed foods. So I never actually tasted it. I do remember looking at the labels and thinking this is just another chemical concoction of stuff at the time. That being said, I haven't looked at it recently, so they could have possibly changed it, or maybe some of their versions of cheeses are better than others. Um, I just remember thinking that it was better than average, but it was not great from an ingredient standpoint.
Mhm. So that's good information. What advice can you give on just reading labels in general?
Well, the most important part of a label has nothing to do with the numbers that they make large and in charge on the top, like the grams of sugar, the grams of sodium. That really means nothing, because unless you know the source of those sugar grams and sodium grams, it doesn't tell you if it's good for you or bad for you. So the important part is to look at the little fine tiny print underneath all those numbers, and that's where you learn what actually is in the product you're trying to eat. And first rule of thumb is, if you can't pronounce it, you probably shouldn't eat it. Second rule of thumb is, if you see a lot of words that have like ate at the end, like potassium sorbate or citrate and those kinds of preservatives, I try to stay away from those. Of course, food dyes is like, goes without saying. I think most people know that at this point, but if you see food dyes like yellow lake and blue dye red number 26, those are probably the most detrimental thing you can find on the label, like top of the top. I also recommend looking out for seed oils, processed seed oils. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but they are in darn close to everything processed, healthy and not healthy, and they will make it sound healthy by calling it sunflower oil or expeller pressed soybean oil. Pretty much any of those oils are very inflammatory. They're now linked to all kinds of diseases like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and you'd be hard pressed to find processed foods, healthy or not, without them in it. And they also hide it. Like, for example, my girlfriend that works with me here was happy because she found this brand chicken nuggets that didn't have seed oils in it for her child. And then we read an article that said they actually flash fry them in seed oils for only 8 seconds. So since it's under the 10-second mark, they don't have to label it on a label, but they're in there. So I was horrified when I found that out. I'm not surprised, because I know how these industries do things, but I was horrified. And so, like, you just have to really be conscious. And I have no problem reaching out to a company and even asking them for practices and how they do something, if it's something like that too. Another thing you want to look for is different ways that companies will call out sugar. So they rarely will say sugar these days. And they're also getting wise high fructose corn syrup. Those two things are, of course, no-nos. Any kind of fructose corn syrup is just bad news. You're better off with organic sugar than you are with any kind of fructose corn syrup. But you might see something that says like dextrin, dextrose, anything with an ose at the end or an extrin at the end is another way of saying sugar. And there's also plenty of artificial sweeteners. So they can say sugar-free, and most times it's something sugar-free, you can bet there's an artificial sweetener in the back. Almost every time. And those are even worse than the sugars, in my opinion. And then finally, you can look for things like different ways of saying refined flours. So if you buy a whole wheat bread in most cases is just as processed as a white bread. It's just, whole grain flour versus whole wheat flour versus white flour. They're all processed. They're all stripped of nutrients. Some of them have nutrients added back into them. But most of those breads, if you look down a few ingredients, also have the corn syrups and the fillers and the gums and the softeners and all the kinds of stuff in them. There's a few brands that are really clean, like the Ezekiel breads, the Rudy's bakery breads. There's some like that are genuinely clean. Obviously, a sourdough bread is your best bet for best digestion if you're not familiar with sourdough, but that it's already pre-digested a little bit, so that's the best for reducing bloating and inflammation and that kind of stuff. What else for labels? That's pretty much it. It's kind of just, if you know what all the ingredients are, you're in a better spot than if you're not. I try to stay away from the fillers, the gums, the xanthan gums, the citric acids, all that preservative stuff. I try to, as much as I can, to stay away from those things, because they make them sound okay, but they're really not in lots of cases. And the natural flavors that is on so many, like I was saying earlier, natural flavors is a blanket statement that the FDA approves, and it encompasses over 3,000 different ingredients, and they don't have to specify what they are. If you call, sometimes they will. Sometimes they'll say it's proprietary information. They won't give it to you. I don't trust any company that won't give out that's not transparent. I refuse. I will not use any product on my skin or in my mouth of a company that won't be transparent about what they have in their foods or the products. So that's a high level label reading crash course, I would say, if that helps.
Yes, thank you.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, we have 10 minutes left, so if you have other questions, now is the time to pose them. Great questions, you guys. Great questions. I like you. This group is cute with the emojis. I usually don't get so many emojis. I like them. These calls, by the way, if you don't know, if you're new here, they get recorded and they get emailed to you within a few days after this call. So you can go back and watch anytime. What does not come forward is you can't go back and reread the chat. I learned that the hard way. So nothing of those comments will be in the chat. That's why I always read them aloud when I'm answering them. So that way, if someone's listening later on, they know what I'm answering. So just so you know, you don't have to have everything in your brain from this call if you want to look back. If I have a cheat meal, what's my go-to? Good question. I don't look as things as cheat meals or not cheat meals. So I'll use a common example that I give to my clients. When you decide to live a healthier lifestyle, you kind of always have a choice to make. And in my mind, every bite you eat can heal you or hurt you. So like if you're in a situation where you're at an Italian restaurant, there's these awesome rolls in front of you, you can decide, I'm going to cheat on Lisa's diet today. Or you can say, I'm not going to feed myself cancer or diabetes. I'm not going to eat the foods that cause that. And while that's really harsh, that's how I personally look at how I eat. I'm not suggesting you have to do that as strongly as I do, but that's what I do. And that's how I decide if I have something poisonous in my mind, I don't eat it. However, for me, like a cheat meal, more or less, like I don't really have cheat meals. I don't feel well if I eat things that are not what I normally eat, but I will sometimes, if I'm with, my brother's kids, I spend a lot of time with them. I might like have a taste of their ice cream, like literally a taste, because they want to share with me, and it's like it means something to them to give them something that they have, and I do that like more so for their sake than my own. I taste it, I'm like, cow, that tastes sweet. Like I haven't had sugar in 20 years, but it gives them so much joy to share something. If they make me something, I will never not eat it, even if it will make me sick. I will stomach it and I will eat it and be sick later, because those are the times when it means something to me to quote unquote cheat. Or if I'm in a family environment and like someone like elderly makes like a family recipe and it's such a big part of who they are to give you like their Italian cookies or something, I will taste it and like, so they know that I love it. I will eat a lot of it. But to me, those are the worthy cheats. That's what I will cheat on. Oh, and every year at Christmas, I will always eat one of my grandmother's cookie recipes that my brother makes in her honor every year. I have one every year. That's about it though. So not too exciting.
I'll say, what do you think about bananas? Because now that you mentioned ice cream, I did see a recipe which looked really good, where you just freeze, which I do anyway. You freeze like older bananas, and then this recipe had just taking those older bananas and blending it up, and then you can add whatever kind of flavor you want to it to turn that banana into a flavored ice cream. Like you could add strawberries and make a strawberry ice cream, or
I make it all the
things
time.
like that.
I
Okay.
make my kids love it. I make it for myself on a daily
Okay.
basis. I make all different kinds of flavors. I love banana ice cream. It's actually one of the recipes in the recipe guide that the program is
Okay.
about. But yeah, that I have a lot to say about bananas actually, because people don't tend to know how to eat bananas properly. So bananas need to be when they are ripe. So people that eat them when they're green or even yellow, they're actually eating a banana that's chemically still a starch. It's like a piece of white bread. It does not digest in your body. It causes constipation. It's why bananas get a bad rap. Once a banana starts to speckle, so even if it's like a little bit of brown speckling, that's when the chemical conversion has started from starch to sugar. And that's exactly what you want. You want a banana to be a sugar. Then it's easy to digest. It's laxative, not constipating. You can eat 6, 7, 8, 10 of them in a day if you want, which I often do in my smoothies or my ice creams. If I make ice cream, I make a big bowl for myself for dinner sometimes. It has like 8 bananas in it. That's my dinner. I think nothing of it. So when you want bananas to be, they don't have to be like brown smushy, just brown speckled with no more green left on the stem. It's fully ripe. And so when you're making these frozen bananas, you peel them, cut them into 3 or 4 pieces. And I personally freeze them in gallons of Ziploc bags. So then I kind of stack them in my freezer so they're easy to break apart, because otherwise they become like these clumps that you can't get apart when you want to blend them. If you have a Vitamix blender, you can actually make them right in the Vitamix blender with the tamper that they give you with a tiny, tiny bit of water. I add a vanilla bean powder to it and a little bit of maple syrup for the kids, and it's like vanilla ice cream. If you don't have a high-speed blender like that, it will break your blender if you try to do it like in a Hamilton Beach blender, or I don't know if a Ninja can do it or not. But you can do it in a food processor. So even a cheap food processor, like the $25 Hamilton Beach food processors, can make banana ice cream. So what you do is you put the metal S blade in it. let it run. It'll take about 4 minutes instead of like 30 seconds, but let it run. And after about a minute, like scrape down the sides of the spatula. And in about, 2, 3, 4 minutes, you'll have like a creamy actual ice cream. It's amazing. And it doesn't even taste banana-y. Like if you think it's going to taste too banana-ish for you, it truly does not. So yeah, love, love, love.
Great one.
Oh, you're welcome for the information on the bananas. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. And that goes for all fruits. Bananas specifically are the most commonly improperly eaten fruit that I come across, but you want to eat all your produce when it's ripe. So if fruit does not smell sweet, if it's not a little soft to the give, you're not getting your nutrition from it, and you're not going to get your taste experience from it either. I mean, if you have a ripe peach, it is easy to eat 5 or 6 of those things and just love every bite of it. If it's an unripe, crunchy peach, like who wants to eat that? You're gonna go back to having your junk food instead. So it's really important to eat your fruit ripe. And a lot of people love the flavor of green ones. That being said, when you get used to eating them when they're ripe, eventually the green ones will taste like paste in your mouth. That's what happens to me now. It just happens over time. Your body will acclimate to eating them the right way. So what about different apples? Are Honey Crisps okay? Is there one that is best for you? No. As far as the type of apple, there's not really one that's best per se. You want to what I make sure is that my apples are always organic, because you are eating the skin in most cases. Anything that eat the skin, I try to buy organic. Ideally unwaxed. So I love to buy them locally, so they're not covered with that shiny wax junk that stores put on. Like if an apple's that shiny, that is not an apple. So I try to get them like from local markets whenever I can in this fall. They're very prevalent around here where I live in the Northeast, so I can easily get apples, and I rarely buy them from a supermarket. If I do, I buy the not shiny looking ones and the organic ones. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's not, they don't really have levels of ripeness that I have found. They kind of just stay how they are. I do leave them on the counter. I don't put them in the fridge because I lose a lot of their tastes to me once they're refrigerated. I keep most of my produce on the counter. I mean, with the exception of berries and grapes, or things that are already cut, I pretty much keep everything else on the counter so it can naturally ripen. And to me, when you eat fruit room temperature, it tastes so much better. The flavor is just so much more delicious than when it's cold. That's just how I've, kind of evolved eating fruit, I guess. You're welcome. You're very welcome. See how these conversations go? They just go these all cool ways, and we have all this great information. I always love it. I wish all the customers could see these calls because they're just so full of good stuff. That being said, we are just about out of time. I will happily stay if I missed anyone's questions or if there's anything burning that you want to ask. Otherwise, we are just about done. No? I hope you all have a wonderful 4th of July. Oh, Jen, go ahead. Do you want to say something, Jen?
Yeah, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy 4th. Enjoy your weekend. And please interact with me. I'm trying to make it as fun as possible. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the page, and I'll be sure and join next month as well.
If you joined late, I don't know if you did. Jen talked in the beginning. She is the administrator for the Facebook Juice Club page. So you all have access to that automatically because of being part of this group. So she puts all kinds of special things up there for you guys. And what did I miss? Can you answer my questions? Maria, I didn't see any questions come in from you, Maria. I'm happy to answer them if you want to unmute and ask me. But I don't have any questions written in here from you. Or feel free to email me, Lisa Testa, my name, at rawgeneration.com. That goes for all of you. You can email me anytime. Happy to answer your questions. Okay. So happy 4th. And
Happy 4th. Thanks
choice.
so much for doing the call.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining, Sandy. It's so nice to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you too.
Hope to see you all next month. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.